Welcome to the Wooper Club League Season 12, Week 3 Power Rankings. I am your host, IllLogic, coach of the Buffalo Bouffalant. As always, I am joined by co-commissioner Steve, coach of the Waterdeep Wobbuffets.
Hey, everybody.
And let's hop into the trades that were effective for Week 3. We have a few more. It seems like it's been quite a flurry this season as everyone's trying to figure out what is actually working in Gen 9. We're going to start off with the Boulder Boulders. In is Gastrodon, out is Quillfish. Steve, aside from trying to copy my team, this definitely helps that water weakness that you saw last week, right?
Yes, this does improve the matchup in the water, getting a key resist to kind of offset the weaknesses from their 3 fire types. Does help. Quillfish was one of their 2 resists, so it doesn't improve things too much. But the difference between an immunity and a resist is quite a lot. So this does give them an answer there.
I like the longevity it gets from Recover, as well as another hazard option. It's just a real solid mon. I took it in round 6. It appeared to have gone undrafted in your league. Real nice pickup there. However, we also get to talk about the Mr. Irrelevant from the Johto draft. Grafai is out, and in its place is Hatterene. So on the other hand, the Boulder seem to have picked up on how good Hatterene, and now the Steamrollers are going to try it out as well.
Yep. Grafai was just kind of pick up as a fast attacker. You could maybe get use, but after seeing how effective Hatterene was in the other league, the Steamrollers thought, wow, that is really good. What if I had that and it could do that same thing? And therefore picked it up. They aren't really missing the speed there. They already had plenty of other speed, something at the same speed at 110. So picking up kind of a slower, bulkier piece that is a devastating terra sweeping option.
Absolutely true about the speed. Kind of interesting that Hat has some unique utility in being able to bounce the hazards, and Grafai has the unique utility of the Prankster, not just Parting Shot, which he already has, but also Encore, so kind of trading out a very specific niche for another one. And then finally, the Buffalo Bouffalant. I think I'm pretty qualified to speak about this one. Out were my last 2 picks of Duckspun and Cyclozar, and in their place are Arcanine and Avalugg. You can talk about this a little bit, Steve, but I will start off by saying Duckspun, kind of a pick of necessity there. 95 speed, nice little fire immunity. Arcanine actually gives both of those, plus a little bit more, just not picking up a wish from Duckspun. And as for the Avalugg and Cyclozar, I just kind of felt like Cyclozar wasn't doing too much. It was a little bit redundant with a lot of the more fragile mons that I had on my team. I'll miss the U-turn and knockoff, but Avalugg I think also really nice for providing an actual defensive piece on my team. I felt like there's a lot of physical offense this season, and that physical defensive piece that could take anything was sorely missing on my team. What do you think?
I would agree with that. You're kind of swapping these around. The Darkspun to Arcanine, you lose that physical defense, although you do pick up Intimidate there, as well as just overall decent stats, but still some missing physical defense that the Avalugg and Cyclozar helps. And of course, Cyclozar, you're missing now the kind of regenerator, but Arcanine does some healing with Morning Sun. So you're kind of rearranging the things into overall probably better mons that are more suited for your team.
A little weird to use the same on 2 seasons in a row, but Arcanine becoming available from last week's trades was too good to pass up, I think. Alright, with that out of the way, it's time to recap some games, though, of course, in the Paldean Conference, we are going to start with the match of the week. If you thought last week was sweep week, you haven't seen anything yet. The only match that was not a clean 6-0 was this feature match between the Akron Agrons and the Quiet Majesty. The Agrons won 2-0, as you can see, pretty convincingly, I suppose, but the road is definitely worth recapping in more detail in the feature match hosted by Michael and the Route 1 Burbs. So next up, we are going to talk about what we anticipated to be a great matchup between the Newport Noctiles and the Close Combat Club that instead became a 6-0 shellacking by the Noctiles, who look like they will just not be stopped. An early screen from Grimmsnarl turns into a chance for Iron Hands to set up Sword Stance, but Rotom with the trick to stop that. A little swapping around in its Volcarona trying to set up, but Iron Moth is jealous of the Quiver Dance, so with a Mirror Herb gets to set up too. The dual Terra follow-up, Grass Iron Moth and Poison Quagsire plus Haze will stop the Iron Moth. Unfortunately, that neat trick doesn't really get anywhere. Eventually, Fortress gets rocks up for just about free, so when Noivern comes in to defog them away, it's returned by an Azumarill player off for the first KO on turn 20. Azumarill gets Grimmsnarl low, then breaks the screen with Brick Break, then destroys Volcarona with a pair of water moves. The rare Azu sweep without Belly Drum, not while it can be threatened out. After some more pivoting, Great Tusk is in. Rapid spins away the hazards, getting a speed boost, and then on the Iron Hands, Ice Punch gets a weakness policy to go off too. One more speed boost ought to do. Take another Ice Punch with ease, and there's the freeze. Oh man, is that it? No, an immediate turn 1 thaw, and without a priority move on Palafin to take advantage of the lower defenses, Great Tusk cleans up the rest. Now 9 KOs on the season for Great Tusk, leading the 3-0 Noctows to another 6-0. Next up, we got a couple of 1-1 teams, but the heavily favored Waterdeep Wobbuffets got the 6-0 over the Zanesville Zigzagoons. An early Terra Bug Garganachi, that doesn't matter against a Sun team. Scovillain decimates that with Flamethrower, then Cloyster followed up with Solar Beam, and even burns the Greedent with Willow. Very efficient use of the Scovillain. Some pivoting later, and Torkoal comes back in to spin away hazards and KO Rotom, then Fire Punch in the Sun is quite strong against Spraylim and Goldango, that Dragonite putting in some work late. It's about finished by this point. Terra Dark Gengar and Sandy Shocks finish off the Greedent. No complaints here concerning the 6-0 win. Finally, the Wooper Troopers finally get off the ground, too, with a 6-0 win over the Kanto Kinglers, the first W for either team. The Annihilate with the Defiant boost brings Crocodile to its sash and doing about 50% to Corviknight with Rage Fist already. Jeez. Bulk up matched by Iron Defense, but Low Kicks is sacked instead to get in the Gardevoir. Bronzong's going to be the answer there, even if it's Terra Fairy Gardevoir. Slowbro tricks Bronzong's a choice specs, but then Iron Thorns comes in with the Quark Drive and D-dances. Krook goes down to Rocks. Salazzle gets off a Toxic before going down, but from there it's all over. Even the recoil from Corviknight's helmet isn't enough. Iron Thorns finishes it off with 4 KOs in the match, and with the Boulders taking the week off on bye, that is what happened in the Paldean Conference. Over to Johto, we had the battle of 2 unexpected undefeated squads, the Summit County Psyducks and Lorraine Laron, and one more time the Psyducks win again with a little help. Another crazy game, but this one a 4-0. Toadscroll removes some hazards, then even removes specs from Bronzong. Glamora leaves a couple hazards before going down, then Quaquaval brings Skeledirge low before retreats into Excalibur. It goes Terra Fairy and barely survives Aqua's Tepid 4% before KOing back. It's 6-4 early. Toadscroll gets the hazards out against Dondozo, and even with it thanks to the Giga Drain, but it goes down to Iron Hands. Seems innocent enough, but when Iron Valiant comes out, Iron Hands, Terra Fairy, tank the Moonblast pretty easily, play rough, miss. What's it like being Zach? Crazy. At least the second one connects to KO and even up the game, but Iron Hands gets into range of the range KO mouse hold time. Tidy up to outspeed Scarf Chi-Yu, tank the Psychic, which did 51%, but of course it's in range of a second. Bite is the only coverage for Bronzong, and the flinch! Insane, it can't get worse, right? Bronzong goes down. Time for Dondozo, who is unaware, of course. Population Bomb does 51. Liquidation leaves mouse hold on 1. Insane. 2 more KOs for Mousehold, and that's game 4-0 with the Mousehold at the end. Next up is a classic matchup of my Buffalo Bouffalant and Michael's Route 1 Burbs, and this one may look more one-sided than it was. A 5-0 win by the Bouffalant, but it was another classic from these two teams. Plenty of positioning early, protect on Chien-Pao for first impression, but a couple turns later, Goldango gets to trick a Scarf onto Ting Lu. That's big, but maybe even bigger is Goldango getting lefties back. That is very crucial. Garchomp takes Future Sight as Ting Lu keeps laying down hazards. Banded Outrage does over 50 to Ting Lu. Jeez, that's impressive for anything to do. On floor, just Talonflame can come back in to clear 3 hazards. Also huge. Iron Moth finally comes in with Quark Drive activates very powerful while it's out. Lycanroc is a revenge option, but the double back onto Slitherwing to tank the Terra Grass boosted Energy Ball while outspeeding with the Scarf a decisive turn. Florges takes a bit of chip, Iron Moth takes some more chip, Talonflame's a bit chipped, Goldango's a bit of chip, until finally Ting Lu gets sacked to the Goldango for the first KO on turn 22. The Burbs can force a KO back though, Slowbro to chip Goldango a bit more, and then Iron Moth to tank a hit, barely, which forces the KO onto Garchomp as the sack. Slitherwing U-turn out into Azumarill, and it's time. Sound the belly drums of war. Iron Moth down, Slowbro down to a player off it hit. Dual Wing Beat brings it to 26%. Liquidation takes care of that. Chien-Pao Sucker Punch, not enough. Hangs on with 2%. And Florges down 2. That's a 5-0 thanks to Belly Drum. Next match, it's the Seattle Steamrollers. They just keep steamrolling. This time a 5-0 beating of the mighty Miltanks. Turn 1 switch to Noivern, and look what Flamethrower does. Break Mimikyu's disguise. 2 more hits KO Mimikyu without taking damage. Amoonguss takes over 2/3, then switch to Dugtrio, and 2 hits that KO that before Rotom finally comes out. Jeez. Rotom and low kicks do a little to Klefki, but after an axe kick miss, Klefki KOs the low kicks. Both screens are up in a layer of spikes before Klefki finally goes down. That lets Cinderace KO Roaring Moon with high jump kick, and after getting paralyzed, Noivern comes back out to Terra Normal Boom Burst, the newly Terra-fired Amoonguss, and KO, and then one more to seal the deal. Basically, 3 Mons grab the 5-0. Another easy win for the Steamrollers. And finally, the newcomers to Johto faced off in a bid for each other's first win, but it was the Music City Mudkips who laid the beatdown on the Adams Pidgey Emporium 6-0. Early, it looks like there is not a wall to Armarouge, while Corviknight and Clodsire trade in the Hazard Dance. Finally, with Hexorus out against Armarouge, Armarouge goes Terra Psychic and gets the Oko with Psychic. Big swing there for sure against one of the better offensive pieces to deal with, especially considering Clodsire walls Volcarona and catches Ditto to bring it to Stealth Rock range. Very nice. Then also walls Corviknight and also walls Rotomo and also walls Screamtail. Oh no. It's going to take some work to actually KO Corviknight, though, with an immune to Toxic and Earthquake. Screamtail then does 81% with a surprise Psyshock, but it goes down to Earthquake and Toxic. But Volcarona gets off a Flamethrower. Clodsire lives on 2%. It looks like that's all, especially when Corviknight goes Terra Flying. That allows Iron Juggles to take care of that, and Volcarona with relative ease. That's a 6-0. And with the Cincinnati Incineroar by, that is what happened in the Johto Conference. And now with that out of the way, we can move on to some power rankings. Paldea power rankings. The Newport Noctowl stay up at number 1. The Akron Agrons number 2. And as we discussed last time, it's the Wobbuffets and Majesty swapping places 3 and 4. I don't know how much more we need to say about the Noctowl, Steve. They're probably going to be number 1 for a good long while unless someone really challenges their reign.
Yeah, Noctowl is having great performances so far this season. Favorite within this conference going in. Strong wins. We haven't seen any reason to kick them out, and until they lose, and even a small loss might be enough. It might need to be a big loss for us to reconsider this number 1 spot.
Yeah, it looks like he's just playing around with his toys a little bit here, doesn't it? I mean, real nice trick onto the Iron Hand. Sure, that's somewhat standard. The Iron Moth with Mirror Herb, are you kidding me? And how many more KOs is this Great Tusk going to have? It's up to 9, I think, just in the last couple matches. The Noctowls are going on an absolute insane run. Is it crazy to call them just straight up the best team right now?
I'm definitely, within the conference, not crazy at all. Overall, that might be true too. I won't spoil who the number 1 is on the other side, but I'm sure you can guess. But there might be a slight competition for number 1 overall. But a lot of teams, these two teams, just coming in and winning their games without question marks.
Well, I sure hope that number 1's me. So going on to number 2, it's the Akron Agrons, and Joey just keeps winning. This is early season Joey. If you're not aware, the Akron Agrons, a good history in the first half of the season, tend to fall apart later, but we're not there yet, and frankly, until they actually do lose a game, we need to continue to speak highly of the Agrons, even if this ended up being closer than we thought in the feature match.
Yeah, great performance from them. Staying well in control against, a surprising Quiet Majesty team. Overall, strong performance, and we'll see if any of these other teams are able to travel them. I know based on the Agron schedule, they don't play any of the preseason top 3 teams until the last 3 weeks. So if they can stay strong up until that point, they'll be in a fantastic spot.
We'll talk about how the Quiet Majesty are kind of the opposite of that in just a moment. But first, we do need to touch on the Wobbuffets. We did mention last week, Steve, that if the Majesty fell and the Wobbuffets win, the two teams were so close already that was probably enough to tip the scales. Sure enough, you came away with a very decisive victory.
Yeah, a big win here. Definitely some suboptimal play at the end, just trying to maintain 6 months to pick up that 6-0. But it did end up working out, able to win this, especially off the back of Scovillain against the team not really well prepared for it. Easy enough, and a big win. Well, the Majesty lost is all it takes to swap places. If similar things happen next week, it's very possible places swap back.
Absolutely. So I guess we should talk about that then. We had a bit of a discussion for the number 4 team, and it may seem odd to you that a 1 and 2 team, the Quiet Majesty, are still here. Again, go check out that feature match with the Agrons. That was crazy. Very fun match. But you may notice who their competition has been the first 3 weeks. It is the Wobbuffets, Noctowls, and Agrons in order there, weeks 1 through 3. Steve, those are the 3 teams ahead of them. It's very tough to knock them for losses against the best teams, including having a win against the number 3 team.
Yeah, that is very true. They've just played teams that are up here on the power rankings now, and held their own, and picked up a win. We'll see as the weeks go on and they play some of these other teams if they can pick up the dominant wins that these other teams in the top have been able to pick up, or if perhaps they struggle against some of the mid-ground teams, and they slowly fall out of it as some other teams make their way in.
Yeah, I think an ideal schedule for one of the top teams would be kind of get some of the lower teams in there and have the top teams sprinkled throughout, so you get some nice bounce-back games in order to go on to those big games against kind of feeling high. Quiet Majesty have not had that luxury, but as we said, it looks like a bunch of underperforming teams that they have left on the schedule, so while they're down at 4, and another loss could send them tumbling, look out for them in the future here too. Are there any other teams we want to talk about in Paldea as an honorable mention before we move on?
We did discuss talking about the Boulder Bulldoors at 1-1. This was a bye week for them. We had kind of discussed a little bit about them the previous week, how they kind of just barely missed it. They were around or number 5 or so, and they were the only contention for that number 4 spot, as they do have a better record at 1-1 compared to the Quiet Majesty's 1-2. But just based on the strength of opponents, the strength of win, the losses, we felt that the Majesty certainly have that right now.
Interested to see what happens in the weeks moving forward, but we can't talk about that quite yet. Instead, we get to talk about Johto, and big surprise over here, the Steamrollers remain number 1 up at the top there too, and then we have a bit of a swap here. The Psyducks moving up to 2, the Bouffalant down to 3 with the Psyducks a win there against the Lairon, who also still hang on at number 4. We talked about the Noctels in the other conference. Surprise, it's the Steamrollers over here who are still undefeated and still taking names, and it seemed almost effortless win, again, only really using 3 Mons in their 5-0.
Yeah, really impressive win from the Steamrollers. Really strong start, clicking Flamethrower for turns 2 through 7. Would not think that was an effective strategy, but it did the trick. Not over-predicting, just taking the damage in front of them, and it ended up netting them huge early gains, really reducing their opponent's strengths. After that point, it's just a matter of cleaning up, and they're quite good at it. They're doing great, and hopefully someone can give them a challenge sometime soon.
We may be getting that pretty soon here as they start facing other top teams. But speaking of, we had the other 2-0 teams facing off. Psyducks did walk away with the win over the Lairon. We talked about this a little bit before. It was 4-0, and even with all those different hacks going their way, I think probably the Psyducks still had it in the bag, even without the miss and the flinch there. May have been a whole lot closer, but can't really fault the Psyducks for a win, and we bumped them up to 2 because of a win against a good team.
Yeah, if they're going to keep getting this RNG, maybe we should keep accounting for it and giving them the 3-0. But even outside of that, picking up a win against a strong opponent as opposed to the number 3 below them, picking up a noticeably bigger win, but against a team that is kind of struggling more this season. So, slight differences there, but we feel that based on this last week from the Psyducks, They should get the bump ahead. Also, of course, that head-to-head from week 1 really should help out here, too. And, again, these two teams could easily flip-flop based on how future weeks go. But this week, we're just giving it to the Psyducks.
As of now, it looks like the Bouffalant schedule is a little softer in the next couple weeks than the Psyducks. If the Psyducks want to stay at number 2, it looks like it'll probably be up to them, but the future is in their hands with the head-to-head win. And finally, we should, again, talk about the Lairon. It is a tough loss there at the end, but they did play, again, overall pretty darn well. Probably would have been a very close game if it were not for the hacks. But also, I think just a good enough performance on its own to keep them in the top 4. They've done well enough, in my opinion.
Right. They started out 2-0, picking up a loss here to a team that is now 3-0, the currently ranked number 2 team. No shame in that. Similar to Majesty, just losing to other ranked teams. And then if you were to consider other teams that could take this number 4 spot, there's no one else that has 2 wins. So they're kind of the front runner in terms of actual standing and also in how we are feeling about the teams right now.
But there is one other team we kind of discussed a little bit as a potential honorable mention. Is there a team on the rise here, Steve?
Yes. The Music City Mudkips, after a week 1 bye and week 2 terrible game, they come back week 3 here with a big 6-0 win, and they're, kind of picking up steam. Only 2 weeks in, of course, for what they've played. So 1-1. But if they're able to build off of their success in week 3 and keep getting some more of those wins, we could certainly see them enter the top 4 soon enough.
Yeah, it was a pretty nice game here this past week. See if maybe they can shake things up a little bit. But otherwise, that's going to do it for us in the Power Rankings talk for Week 3. We do have the Week 4 schedule to look forward to. The Paldea League hosted the feature match yet again, Steve. So which match among these looks very interesting to you and that you will be keeping your eye on?
A lot of these matches seem to be between top teams and borderline teams, so it'll be interesting to see if any of the teams can pick up a key upset. I think one of the highlights for me is going to be the Newport Noctowls and Boulder Bulldoors. We're talking about Joe right on the edge coming up against the Noctowls, who are a very strong team right now. If the Boulders can pick up a win or even a close game, that could do them a ton of favors in future power rankings.
Absolutely true, and the one that I'm looking at for a couple of borderline teams here, the Majesty did sneak in at the number 4 spot, but they're facing yet another tough team potentially. The Close Combat Club just took a big L this past week, and we left them off the rankings for that reason. This is a great chance for both teams to rebound. If we get a close, good game, I would not be surprised, especially knowing the type of game that John plays. If Majesty can keep up in that, this could be a whole lot of fun, and the winner of that has a great shot to be on the rankings again here too. Over in Johto, there is one obvious standout game. It's the last 2 undefeated teams in Johto, the 3-0 Steamrollers, the 3-0 Summit County Psyducks. Will the Psyducks' luck keep up? Will the Steamrollers continue to steamroll over everybody? I am so excited for this one. Anything else catching your eye here, Steve?
The other match that catches my eyes would be the Bouffalant and Incineroar game. Bouffalant, after a Week 1 loss coming back getting to 2-1. The Incineroar having their bye currently at 1-1. Trying to reignite that comeback season, facing another tough opponent here in the Bouffalant after their loss to the Steamrollers. Hoping to kind of make up some ground and get a key win and, set the pace for the rest of their season.
All right, that'll do it from us. Looking forward to some more Week 4 matches. Again, go check out the feature match from Michael and the Route 1 Burbs on this same channel. Thanks again to Steve for joining me, and thank you for joining us too. We'll see you for the Week 4 Power Rankings next time.